right, I think I've had enough about, or had enough about of Halo at this point. Like, we're episode 3 in. There's only 9, I believe, and they're dragging this out like crazy. And without further, like, instead of just going into my rant, or let's just go straight into my rant, I should say. So, first things first, we get our first look of young Maki and Maki, or whatever heck her name is. Doesn't really matter because her character is bullcrap. So we get a little backstory into her where she was like on some kind of trash planet, and she was being beaten and like treated like crap. So that's why she hates humans. And doesn't, but for some reason she still, I guess, like, maybe she's been groomed to think like, oh, not only should you hate humans, but because we saved you from humans from beating the crap out of you, you should help us in eliminating humans from the rest of the planet, or like the rest of the galaxy. And by doing that, and you do that because we have some device stick thing where, like, we found you as a, like, that's how they find reclaimers. And reclaimers, if you're not familiar, are humans who can use Forerunner technology. So Maki is one of those people. So, and apparently they have some kind of homing beacon that can like find like reclaimers. So I'm like, all right, that's I don't think that was a thing in Halo lore, but whatever. I mean, this whole like Maki arc and enemy thing is crazy in general. One thing I wanted to bring up previously was like the alien language, which I am pretty sure doesn't exist in the Halo world, like, or at least in all the games. Like the Covenants speak English, which, I mean, technically, if you think about it, doesn't really make sense because like they're a foreign alien race from another part of the galaxy. So why would they know English of all languages, right? So even though technically the backstory, like, there was like a different type of history in terms of like, the human and the Covenants, like, there, because I guess like if you were to imagine like technology as a timeline, like it was very advanced at one point, and then the flood came, or the flood, almost destroyed like all of existence, and then like all civilizations were whittled down to like nothing, and then technology came back. So but before that, there was actually all the races were actually like together in a way. But anyways, so basically what I'm trying to say is like they could have a common language because they were at one point like communicating, and they had interstellar travel like hundreds of thousands of years ago. So that was that's part of the Halo universe. So it's not impossible for them to have like a single language because the Forerunners would have given them their language. But then again, they were also whittled down to like a primitive state. So technically they wouldn't. So I guess I get the creative part of like why aliens would have their own language, and they wouldn't speak English because it's like it wouldn't even make sense. It'd be like someone on the other side of this planet who's never known English, and then suddenly one day they show up and they start speaking English. Like, it wouldn't even make sense. So I get it, but also it's just like, you know what, like, I guess to immerse people into their lore, they got to do this stuff, but it doesn't really, I don't really care. So next big thing that we get revealed, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes, is we get to see the physical manifestation of Cortana, or which in this case is a clone of Halsey. I think it's played by the same actress, in this kind of creepy looking, no eyebrow clone thing. And again, this is not in Halo lore like in the original. And I know like this is supposed to be the silver timeline and it's completely different, so I guess they can really do whatever the hell they want. But in this case, Cortana, again, like in the original lore, is not a clone that becomes an AI. It's just a copy and paste of Halsey's brain. Like that's what it's supposed to be. Like that's just what Cortana is, you know, with some exceptions, of course, because I think it was like a younger version of herself. Um, and then not only is it gonna be like a physical or like a clone of Halsey, they also eventually how he's like and like the and how she's paired with Master Chief is completely off too, because like this whole episode is kind of like for Master Chief is about how he gets Cortana, and it's definitely not how he gets her in the lore. Like in the video games, like Cortana is not surgically implanted into Chief. He's like on a chip that plugs into the back of his helmet, and yes, like the AI is supposed to help Spartans become like a more efficient super soldier, or like more efficient Spartans, right? Because one thing to note is that the Mjolnir armor that all the Spartans use, like it's more than just armor. It's not just like they just put on plating armor and then like they're good to go. There's actually like the Mjolnir Mjolnir is actually like kind of like a high-tech prosthesis. So very like think little bit of Iron Man, where it actually enhances Spartan strength. So Spartans themselves are enhanced already with like bone structure and like increased muscle mass, but the armor themselves were also enhanced as well in terms of like it makes them stronger, makes them more agile. They can jump farther. You know, it takes impact better. So because the original Mjolnir armors were actually made for like just normal soldiers, but they actually killed like their hosts or like the people who wore them because it was just too strong. Like it would actually like tear people's like it would break people's bones and like tear their muscles apart and crap, and it killed like the people who wore it. So that's why they need the augmentations in order to actually take the force of the armor itself. So and each Spartan actually like has a neural connection to the armor where they can control it, kind of like like an Iron Man armor type of thing. It's not to the point where it's like Iron Man where you know you have an AI that can control a lot of it, but it's supposed to basically, I believe, the AI is supposed to enhance the neural link between the two platforms, so that there's like little to no lag between a Spartan wanting to punch someone and the punch actually happening. Like I believe that's how it's supposed to be. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the idea of what the AI is supposed to do. It's supposed to like be more efficient and optimize like their movements and stuff, but not to the point where it's like that scene in Captain America Civil War, where he has Friday like analyze Captain America's fight pattern and then produces like a counter strategy. It's not like that. Most of the movements are still controlled by Chief. It's just that he can move quicker now and he can respond faster. That's kind of the only difference. But in this case, now Cortana is surgically implanted into Chief. And apparently like she can do anything. Like she can just completely take over him and just like control Chief, which is like the craziest thing, because that was never the case in the original Halo. I was about to say Halo Halo lore, and that was just not the case, because at this point you basically just transferred a consciousness from one body to another. Like if Cortana can literally just take over, like you just basically gave her like a physical body, which is crazy in itself. But so Cortana is now in Chief, and she's supposed to be there kind of almost like a fail-safe. It's like, like you're supposed to enhance Chief but also control him, because like apparently she can just shut him down, like just vegetable him, which is insane. Like if you ask me, like it's where they're going with this. I don't know. Like I don't even understand what's happening now, because it's going off the rocker. And when this part happened, I didn't even care about what happened in the rest of the episode, because honestly, like who gave a crap? like I didn't care what the heck happened to Kwan Ha, like, and Soren, like whatever. there's 3 storylines at this point, and I don't even actually 4, because there's Maquis and the Covenant, there's Chief, who should be the only storyline arguably, and then there's Miranda Keyes and her crap, and then now there's Kwan Ha and her crap, which may or may not just stick with Soren, I guess, at that point. So I'm just like, dude, like, there's only 9 episodes and there's 4 storylines. Like, what could you possibly be doing with the rest of the 6 hours of storytelling? Like, I feel like they're just packing in way too much. Like, they needed to remove 2 of these. Like, we did not need to really care about Miranda Keyes at this point, because like she's insignificant in the storyline, right? But she is like a major character in Halo 2, and we don't really care about Kwan Ha. Like, honestly, like, even though I think the actor's really good, and like she does a great job in episode 1 or 2, like, there really doesn't need to be a part 2 to her. Like, part 1, okay, like, you know, her family gets killed, she does a great job of like all that, you know, the acting in episode 1. But after that, it's just like, I'm like, I don't really give a crap about her at this point. Like, oh, she's going back to Madrigal and like join up with the Resistance, blah 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 blah. Like, you know what, like, I don't really care about that storyline at this point, because like like, you know, because like the whole thing with the Halo lore is that, yes, there was a colony versus UNSC war before the Covenant War, but the second the Covenant shows up, like, basically that whole civil war just like goes away, because they're like, we have bigger fish to fry. Like, this entire alien race, like, it wants to eliminate humans, period. So we got to band together and fight back, because they're just going planet to planet and glassing the crap out of it. So, and even in other Halo like kind of media, or, you know, like mediums, there's these footage of UNSC and insurgents like fighting together against the Covenant. So the fact, and I guess, like, yeah, not everyone wants to fight the Covenant, or they wants to like just pretend like UNSC and insurgents are friends again now, but I feel like just diving into that kind of branch or whatever it is, it's just, who cares? Like no one, like, it doesn't really matter. Halo is about humans versus Covenant. That's what it's about. All this other stuff is like, we don't care. You know, like now, even in this episode, they go back into like Chief's like childhood, which I guess they're gonna explore more. Which the lore, I never read the books, but I don't think they ever go into who his parents were. Like, I don't think that was ever a big deal. They throw more into how Spartans work. Like, they have an inhibitor chip on the bottom of their spine that like stops them from having emotions, so that they can, you know, not have emotional reactions to things. They just do. And I don't think that was ever a thing. Like, Spartans have emotions. Like, in, I believe, Fall of Reach, you know, one of Blue Team's first missions, they lose Sam, one of their other fellow Spartans, and they were not happy about it. You know, they were very torn, and that was after they became Spartans, not when they were kids. That was after they got all the augmentations and they got their first mission as like with Mjolnir armor. So it was like, it was not a thing. So them adding this stuff in is just like, all right, well, like, there's just some ethical questions, right? Like, we take real humans, do crazy augmentations on them. Oh, and they also add that like only 30 some odd people survived to become Spartan 2s, which I believe in the original there was like over 200 out of 400. So I guess there's a lot less Spartans in this world too. And they also mentioned how they lost one of their team members at one point. So like, the only highlight of this episode was here when we get our first glimpse of I guess you could say, a third Covenant species, which are the Hunters. So let me find, yeah, here we only see a glimpse though. We only see like their legs and the assault cannon that he has, or Hunters have. So so in Halo, the Halo games, Hunters are these giant like Hulk-like beasts who are made up of like thousands or hundreds of these like creepy worm things, and they like form like they're individual worms, but they merge kind of into one. inside this armor that like the Covenant give them, and they basically become this huge beast, and they are like not easy to fight off in the game. So like the best way to fight them is like you have to go behind them because that's where their like body is exposed, and then you have to like hit them with a ton of grenades or like just shoot them in the back. So these things like, but this is the first glimpse of a hunter. We don't even see the whole thing. We only see the legs and like some of the other parts, but then somehow Maki here is supposed to be able to control them, or maybe they just don't attack her. And instead of having a hunter just like destroy the UNSC ship, instead she does this like crazy, like just walks through the entire ship, and the worms just like, I don't even know how to describe it, or just this creepy thing where they just like go rampant through like the ship and just starts attacking people like from up, right, left, down, on diagonal. And that was like somewhat interesting, but like I'm like, this has never happened in the game too. Like hunter, like these worms would always be, or like the worms would always become hunters. Like they don't do this like separation thing. The only thing that would remotely be resemblant to this was like fighting the Flood, when they had those little spore creepy crawly things going through the level or whatever. So but I don't but anyways, I really, at this point like in the story, like I really don't give a crap anymore. So like now they're painting like Chief, where he's like this reclaimer person or whatever, and now they're gonna go back to like, I guess, the place where he was kidnapped, and they're gonna go look for the other part of this artifact that's with the Keystone. And yeah, they go into this whole crap about like him, like he goes through, I guess, the city of, or like the planet of Reach. He starts discovering like music. He's like, oh my gosh, I have emotions now. And it's like this whole arc, like it's so bizarre, and like the way they just throw Chief, and I feel like half of this is just like, I don't know if this is a part of a creative decision or just like Pablo Schreiber just like, hey man, I don't want to be in that armor like 90% of the time and with my head covered, so give me more human like scenes where like I get to discover the character of like Master Chief, blah 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 blah. And it's like no one gives a crap about the human side of Master Chief. Like the whole point of Master Chief is that he is the most badass Spartan super soldier in the Halo world, and he fights for humanity. Like he does not quit, and he is a one-man army. That's why they call him the Demon, that's and he's a demon because he just like destroys the Covenant like left and right. Like he is, it's just like non-stop, like bow 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 bow. But in this, we got to find out like Chief has like, used to have a dog as a kid, and used to draw a lot, and he had like an overbearing father that told him to bury something. And I'm like, who cares? Like all I wanted, like by episode 3 at this point, they should have been on a Halo ring and fighting for their lives. Like that's like, it should be like a survival episode where he's just scrounging around for weapons, maybe protecting Quan Ha for whatever reason. Maybe she should have been the reclaimer or something like that. They're just protecting her, and now he's like fighting through like endless forces of Covenant with Silver Team like on its way there for some backup. Like that, I feel like that would have been a lot more interesting than what the heck we're getting now. But I guess they're setting all this stuff up for season 2, where I don't know what they're gonna go. But frankly, like I was just annoyed because towards the end, like after all these people start the credits roll, I was just like, I was looking at this Kyle Killen and Stephen Kane. Like, I don't know who you guys are, but this is a terrible adaptation, and we already know that these guys, like, they don't not just them, but like whoever created this too, is just like, what are you guys doing? Like, I wish you guys had, like, they already said, like, you know, the creators of this stuff never played the games. You know, pretty much, like, I think what they did the equivalent of was like watch a few YouTube videos of guys explaining their lore, and they're like, I got this, and then just took that and ran with it. You know, and then they're like, oh yeah, like, we need some nostalgia from it, so we'll take some of the sound effects, like the shields recharging, and then, you know, we'll put some iconic scenes like Chief holding a Gatling gun, but that's it. You know, like, that's all we got. And it was just like that they just took it from there, you know, and there's nothing else to it. And I'm sorry, but it's just like, I don't get what the crap, like, they're really going with this whole thing. But they need to hire some new freaking writers. All right, they need to hire people from Bungie, like the original creators, in order to, like, kind of not retcon thing, but like steer it in the right direction. Because right now, whatever they're doing, like, I'm sure, yeah, I get it, like, as writers and stuff, they're like, okay, we want to put our own creative take on this. You know, we don't want to just do a copy and paste, which I get, like, right? Like, you don't want to just, you know, basically put the game onto the screen, which, you know, you really can't do because nothing really translates one to one like that. But at the same time, like, you can't go a complete 180 and just do this whole dramatic series when it's not dramatic. Like, it's not supposed to be dramatic. Like, you know, I think they're just way too into about writing story to make up to just go in this kind of, like, derivative of the world. Like, there's so much lore into the Halo world that they could have just taken stuff from it, like, you know, kind of go at like a buffet and, like, okay, we're gonna take all this crazy stuff and then mash that into, like, my own little, like, personal salad. You know, they could have done that, but instead of doing that, they're like, we're only gonna take 2 or 3 things and then completely add in our own ingredients. And yeah, like, I guess from a creative standpoint, that's more creative, but, you know, you're really doing a disservice to the original material. It's like, I mean, it'll be like if someone made a new X-Men, you know, comic or movie, and then just say, like, instead of a mutant gene being, like, the next part of evolution, we're gonna say it was a disease, and, like, it was manufactured, so, like, it was injected to people, and, like, something like that, like doing something crazy and just completely changing the world, like, about it. So I don't know. At this point, I just don't really I don't really have a whole lot of faith in the last 6 episodes of this of this series. And I mean, I'm probably still gonna watch it, but honestly, like, I don't have a lot of high expectations. So, but that's just what my take is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about Halo Episode 3. I didn't really care for it. Maybe you guys did. Even if you did, that's great. If you're really enjoying it, good for you. But for me, it's just not great stuff. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have a great day. Tell someone you love them. See you guys later.